Hello everyone, welcome to AEzeezoology. Today in this video, we will be talking about the structure of small intestine and large intestine and its histology. So we had seen that the esophagus is leading to the stomach and the stomach via its pyloric region, it is leading into the small intestine. The small intestine has got three components, the C-shaped duodenum, which is hardly 10 to 12 fingers long. Then you have the next part, which is jejunum, and then the ileum part. These are the three parts of the small intestine. And why they are known as small intestine? Because of the smaller diameter. The small intestine is further continued into the large intestine. And why is it known as large intestine? Because of its little wider diameter. Then coming back to the small intestine, in the duodenum region, you can see that there is a hepatopancreatic duct which is pouring its secretion into the duodenum. So hepato means liver, pancreatic means from the pancreas, and here we can see the liver is there. These are the lobes of the liver. In the liver, the hepatocytes are there which are pouring the secretions into the central lobules, and all those smaller ducts are coming and joining to form the bigger ducts. And now this is the right hepatic duct and this is the left hepatic duct. The right and the left hepatic ducts, they join together, and before they proceed further, they are joined by the cystic duct. Where is the cystic duct coming from? It is coming from the gallbladder, and gallbladder is the organ in which the bile is stored. Then when the hepatic duct is being joined by the cystic duct, they together form the common bile duct, and this common bile duct is now further joined by the pancreatic duct, which is coming from this leaf-shaped structure, leaf-shaped organ, which is known as the pancreas, and the pancreatic duct will join it, and now they will become a hepatopancreatic duct, which will pour its secretion into the duodenum region. So we will see a little more detail of all the structure in the next video. Then moving further, from the duodenum, the food, now which is known as chyle, it is entering into the jejunum region. One more thing, that in the small intestine, the environment is alkaline. In case of the stomach, the environment was acidic because the gastric juice was acidic. Here in the small intestine, we will see the intestinal juice and the pancreatic juice, which is coming from the pancreas, the hepatic, the bile juice, which is coming from the liver, they are giving it a alkaline environment. So now when we are moving further, the ileum of the small intestine, now that will further lead into the large intestine. So this is a ileocolic ring from where the cecum will start, which is a part of the large intestine, and at the junction there is a vermiform appendix, which we know is a vestigial organ, and sometimes due to bacterial infection, the inflammation takes place, appendicitis, and it has to be surgically removed also at times. Then the cecum region is leading into the colon region. This is the ascending ring, the transverse colon, and the descending colon. Then the sigmoid colon, which is leading into the rectum, the food which has been digested and absorbed, maximally absorbed in the large intestine. Now the remaining parts, the fecal material is stored for some time in the rectum so that maximum amount of water can be reabsorbed back into the body. And finally, via the anus, the fecal material is removed from the body. One more thing you will see, that when I am making the colon, I am making these small pockets. So these are known as haustra, and these are for increasing the surface area. Then the three muscle bands, you can see three lines are drawn here. These are the three thick muscle bands which are known as tinea coli, which are for giving the firmness to the large intestine. So these are the three muscle bands which are present all through the colon region. Okay, so this was about the human digestive tract. Now moving further, in the small intestine, there is the intestinal epithelium is giving a lot of villi in it, so that to increase the surface area for a better enzyme action and absorption of food material as well. So if we see the TS of the intestinal gland and the cross section of the villi, we will see that this is the lining, the intestinal epithelium is there, and in between there are special cells like goblet cells. Goblet cells are producing mucus. Then we have in between the villi, there is a narrow region which is known as crypts of Lieberkühn. So all these cells, they are producing and pouring this secretion in the crypts of Lieberkühn, which will go into the intestinal lumen where the food is there and the action can take place. So the other cells are Paneth cells, which are more present in the duodenal region, and Paneth cells are rich in zinc and they secrete a lysozyme, which is an antibacterial enzyme. Then we have the urgent-afferent cells, which are more towards the base of the crypts of Lieberkühn, and urgent-afferent cells produce a hormone secretin. The function of this hormone is to secrete bicarbonates from the pancreatic juice. Then there are Brunner's glands, which are more present in the duodenal region, and in the submucosa of the duodenum, their function is to produce mucus. Then more towards the ileum region, there are Pierce patches present. Pierce patches are in the ileum region and they are the lymphatic tissue. Then further moving to the composition of intestinal juice, before that you may see one more thing, this green colored line I have made. This is nothing but the extension of the lymph capillaries into each villi, and they are known as lacteals. So what is the function of these lacteals? The fats which are digested and are present around it in the intestinal lumen, those fats are water insoluble. So how are they absorbed into through the villi into the intestinal cells, and then ultimately they will be going to the blood. So how will that happen? The lacteals will, the fat droplets, they will be converting into the water soluble micelle droplets, and those micelle droplets will be absorbed into the lacteals. So when the lacteals will have micelles, further the micelles will come in the lacteals, and then those triglycerides are going to break off into fatty acids and glycerol, and then as chylomicrons they will be traveling further into the lacteals. So this in detail we will take up when we will be doing the digestion of fats. Then and absorption of fats. Then another, you can see network of blood capillaries, the arteries, they are also innervating each villi, bifurcating into capillaries and then rejoining back to form the venules, which are moving the blood out of the villi. So this is the whole layout of it, and the whole cells, they will be forming the intestinal juice. Intestinal juice or succus intricus, it is having pH 7.6, 2000 to 3000 ml is secreted per day, and besides all this mucus and secretin, lymphatic, WBCs, besides all these components, there are enzymes which are present in the intestinal juice, which are amylolytic, proteolytic and lipolytic and nucleolytic as well. So they are maltase, isomaltase, sucrase, lactase. As you can see, these are all amylolytic enzymes. Then enterokinase. Enterokinase is the enzyme which will be activating trypsinogen into trypsin in the pancreatic juice when there will be a proteolytic protein component in the food present. Okay, and then aminopeptidase and dipeptidase, these are also proteolytic. Then nucleotidases and nucleosidases, these are the enzymes which will be acting upon the nucleic acids. So this was all about the layout of the intestine, and I hope you found this video useful. So thank you.